guests, I like to give out a few instructions as I do each week. If you're on a computer, if you look at the bottom of your computer screen, there's a thread. You'll see an icon that says chat and an icon that says Q&A. If you would like to either communicate with our guests or our staff that are behind the scenes or send questions, please feel free to do so in either the Q&A or the chat. And as time permits, we will definitely answer those questions. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce two amazing human beings that are doing incredible work in our community and specifically directly with the current fires that are happening in California. There are currently 13 fires that are at various stages of containment throughout the state of California. So I'd like to introduce Jon Cesario, ARC life coach at Ventura Training Center, and Steve Rose, a Cal Forestry Logistics Officer, a Cal Fire, real live, formerly incarcerated California wildland firefighter, a VTC alum, and an incredible human being. Jon, could you introduce yourself and tell us just a little bit about what you do? Because we're going to get deeper into what your job entails.
Okay, so my name is Jon Cesario. I'm blessed to be able to be the life coach, one of the two life coaches there at the Ventura Training Center. I started there at the Ventura Training Center December 10th of 2018, kind of a few weeks into the original first class. So I've been able to really see the birth of VTC and see it develop in the amazing academy that it is. With that said, we're on class 6 right now. So, you know, we've gone far. We have men that are out there, you know, in the fires right now that have already been hired by CAL FIRE. We have men who are on strike teams right now to going out and firing, actually working the fires right now. And with that said, you know, we got a lot of things happening, man, you know, so I know you're going to get a little bit more in depth of the Ventura Training Center in the near conversation. But I mean, just for me, you know, me being there, man, has been, you know, life-changing, not just for the guys, but also for myself, you know.
Thank you, Jon. Appreciate you, brother. And thank you for joining the show today. Steve, could you please introduce yourself?
Yes, sir. Stephen Rose, formerly incarcerated. I was incarcerated in 2016, released in 2019. I got to VTC in April of 2019 and graduated October of 2019. And by April of 2020, I was an employee of CAL FIRE. So I'm happy to be here, happy to answer questions and maybe give some insight on my end and my journey through VTC, where I'm at now, what it was like, how I got here, and happy to just be able to sit down and help.
Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you for the work that you're doing out in the community on these dangerous fires. There are a lot of fires. We're in fire season now. Thank you, brother. We appreciate you, and for all of the firefighters that are both inside and the line crews that are inside and outside that are fighting fires. Thank you. Our hearts are with you. Our prayers are with you. Jon, could you explain what is Ventura Training Center and what exactly is your role there?
Okay, so the Ventura Training Center, it's a CAL FIRE Academy. Also, we have the Triple C's, California Conservation Corps there, that actually, you know, hire the men as they or become participants there at the academy. It's an 18-month academy. As you can, as many know already too, that, you know, some of the guys have actually been fortunate to become hired by CAL FIRE before the 18 months had ended. But I mean, with that said, for those that go all the way through the program, it's that 18 months, which we were fortunate to actually have an extension this last year, where guys, I believe, stood at least 22 months. So with that said, VTC is not like any other fire academy. You know, VTC is an academy that brings formerly incarcerated men to the academy. So the way the VTC has been set up over the years is, you know, at all the fire camps throughout California, all the incarcerated fire camps, we were able to get 20 to 25 of the best of those men brought to the fire academy at the Camarillo area after the completion of their time. And with that said, it wasn't just, a recommendation from their captain to get them there. It was actually a high recommendation. So with that said, the participants who have entered VTC, they really kicked butt. They really shined wherever they were at, So it wasn't necessarily a golden ticket that got them there. They earned it, they earned it. The men that we received at the Ventura Training Center are men who actually put the work in, who decided that this is what they wanted to do. And, through the application process, they were able to be qualified and be approved and brought to the VTC. So VTC, like I mentioned, it's an 18-month program. And, depending on the season, it has a lot of different phases. It has the educational part, of course, and they go into depth, and they actually have CAL FIRE captains train and teach and instruct the men for a certain period of time so they can get the necessary certification to become qualified to be able to be hired by CAL FIRE in the following season. With that said, as I was talking to one of the cadets this last week, he said that, it's not just the training inside the classrooms that brings the success of the men there. It's also the one-on-one interaction that these captains and chiefs and, CAL FIRE, Triple C's, ARC, it's all the one-on-one interactions, the life experiences, the in-depth conversations that are happening on a day-to-day basis that creates that solid foundation. You know what I'm saying? So simultaneously, at the time where the guys are going through the academy, at the VTC, we also have life skills component, which ARC is the one who spears that. And with that said, we come alongside the guys, and as a life coach, I've been fortunate to really learn these participants' goals and desires and dreams, and actually make it a part of my own. And with that said, Steve can attest to this, that as we sit down in the beginning, we really sit back and see what will it take to become the best version of yourself. And in that, we start making some realistic goals, educational goals, goals to fulfill the parole conditions, pro-social activities, a lifestyle, life skills, driver's license, DMV, you name it. We're there and we connect. Tattoo removals has been a huge part of VTC, as the men are going through VTC, the face tattoos, the neck tattoos, the hand tattoos, CAL FIRE is real big on not having any, tattoos such as those, So with that said, we've been fortunate to connect with resources locally to be able to, get the guys what they need. And with that said, another huge component of VTC that ARC spares is we have a job developer, and this job developer sits with these men individually and collectively throughout the whole year, and basically dials the guys in, man, helps and assists and comes alongside them and shows them and teaches them, what it looks like to put together a CAL FIRE resume, a forestry resume, a civilian resume. Also, the gruesome application process that takes place once a year for CAL FIRE for the seasonal firefighters, So it's not like CAL FIRE, it's not like other, careers where you're able to put the application as a job arises, CAL FIRE, one of the, the positions as seasonal firefighter, you get one time a year, and that's November. In November, it's application season. And if one mistake is made on that application, you get rejected until the following year. So to have a job developer there to be able to help the guys connect with the resumes, the application process, computers, email, Cal Careers accounts, there's a lot of in-depth in it, So, one thing I could really say about the Ventura Training Center is, it's always moving, there's always action going on,
So let me ask. Let me ask Steve, how did you get to VTC? Because like John's laid it out, most of the training and the requirements and the application process and the grueling, it's hard. It's not like this is something that you put a job application in and you run 5 laps. Like I've seen some of the training, like that fire hose training, running back and forth with that, and I'm in pretty good shape. But Steve, how did you get to VTC first?
Hey, Sam, thank you. First off, John, well said. A mind change is my first thing. That's how you get there. You change your mind, your mindset. You know, I went in to prison wanting to be that guy, hands up, everything. It just doesn't work. You have to have a mind shift, you know. And when you get to fire camp, like John was saying, hard work, dedication, I didn't want to break the rules anymore. I wanted to get home, you know. And at the time, that's what it was. And that doesn't go unnoticed, you know. I know there's a stigma, right? Everyone in prison did something wrong. They're bad people. Everyone's got a story, you know, and my story got me there, but it's not who I was. It's where I was at in life, you know. And that's what got me there. So when I got to fire camp, I embraced what they were doing, but I embraced it in the sense of not, I'm trying to get time off my sentence, not I'm trying to get anything. I wanted to get home and I wanted to be a better person. And my lieutenant, my chief, my captain, that came with a high recommendation, you know, living by the rules, I guess, for lack of a better term, living by their rules gets you there. But you have to put in work, you know. I put the footwork in. I followed their rules. I was helpful when I could be. I went above and beyond, you know, which it wasn't always the popular way because people look at you funny in that sense, you know. Like, oh, why are you doing that? Why are you taking the trash out when it's full at base camp? Well, because it's the right thing to do, you know. And that goes with the change of mindset, in my opinion. But that's what you do. And then I learned that further at VTC. Like that carried, you know. You take that mindset, you take it to that next level. Where I'm at now, I take it to the next level.
But could you explain to us? So first, to our audience, there's a question about EMT licensing. We will have a specific segment on that coming up. Trust me, stay tuned. You want to hear about what we're doing to make sure that that's possible for our people that are inside that are considered, what's the term used, Steve? Line crews?
There's a few: inmate hand crew, inmate wildland firefighters, inmate firefighters, but it's always inmate, right?
So what I wanted to ask you was like, okay, so you're in fire camp. You're this person that's in custody in one of the fire camps. How did you get from that fire camp to VTC? Like you had already, like in your mind, as I'm hearing you, you had already decided that I want something different, and you had already mentally shifted where you were going while you were in this fire camp. But how did you get from that fire camp to VTC?
So I was fortunate in the sense of learning about VTC before VTC was a thing. Well, it was in motion, right? The wheels had already started moving, but the lieutenant from my camp came from the old Ventura camp. And so when he came to my camp and I was discussing things with him, he told me that this was the only option I had. He's like, if you don't apply yourself, I'm going to apply for you. And that was, so he saw something in me that I didn't maybe see it at, but we sat down and for a half an hour, I think he ingrained in me that this was the right decision. So I got an insight as to what Ventura Training Center was going to be before the first class had started. And I wasn't eligible till the third class, but I was able to sit down and really get a feel of what they were trying to do, you know, from somebody who was involved in the planning part of it before it was a thing, when he was the lieutenant for the camp that was now what VTC is. So.
Can you tell us what it was like while you were in custody? What was it like to fight fires then?
It's a double-edged sword, you know. There's pride on our end. There's hard work. There's dedication. For us, we're out there putting fires out. We're boots on the ground fighting direct line, 4 foot you know, they keep us safe, right? Not always did we follow the same rules that everybody else did because we were expendable, in my opinion. Like, that's the perception. Not to say that we were, but that was my perception at the time. We're the inmates, so go cut line, you know, go get in the mix of it. And for us, it's pride, you know, but there's also that other side where it's like not appreciated at times, you feel, you know. That's what you're supposed to be doing. You got yourself in trouble, now go fight fire at camp, you know. And that's a feeling I had. And I've talked to a lot of guys, and that's a feeling that a lot of us had. It wasn't the pride that I feel now is the same, you know, when I fight a fire now and when I fought a fire then, because I was doing it for a different reason. I wasn't doing it because they told me to. I got to the point where I was doing it because that's what I wanted to do. And I think that's a kind of where it ended up for me.
So a question from our audience is, did the sense of pride, because you mentioned pride several times, did the sense of pride gained as a firefighter, did it help you in other aspects of your life? And now do you feel that you're fully accepted into that community?
100%, fully accepted. There's people that don't know my story, don't know my past, have no idea. The way I perceive myself now and hold myself, couldn't tell, you know. But yeah, I really honed it at VTC though. That's where Jon spoke on life skills. Man, those classes every Wednesday night, like I didn't want to always go. I was beat up, tired, training. But we would go to class. We would go to life skills meetings. They're an hour out of your day, you know. And we were fortunate, kind of getting off subject, but we had a time management person come in from ARC or affiliated with ARC that told me, like, this is how much time you're wasting in your day. So to find an hour to go to life skills, it was well worth it. You know, I was able to hone in that. I speak on pride, but to learn how to take each of those lessons and build on them, for me, that was huge, man, huge.
I have a question from our audience, and they're asking for their brother who's in fire camp right now. How long in advance? So first, is it best that they ask about VTC? And how long in advance should they start asking?
So I think if I'm not mistaken, unless it's changed since because I applied in October of 2018, which is when the first class started. And I was getting out in February of 19. And I believe then it was 6 months. Maybe John or Michelle could answer differently. But when I applied, it was 6 months from release date. So I was able to get into the April class. But start asking if you're doing the right things and you are not there to get in trouble, start asking now. Get your name out there. Show them that you're interested in this. Tell your brother. Show his interest in getting to VTC.
So first, the other thing I want to do before I forget, congratulations, huge congratulations to you as the full-time position with Cal Fire. Like, that's amazing. Just like it for people that are in custody right now that may have an opportunity to view this, you are the embodiment of hard work, commitment, and not giving up, and demonstrate that you belong. So congratulations, brother, and thank you. Now,
Sam, can I stop you for 1 second? I just want you to know this. This is not a well-known fact. I got this permanent position, but I got 3 positions in Cal Fire in a matter of 3 months. Wow. I had 3 different jobs. I started off as a defensible space, then I went to a firefighter, and then I came into this permanent role as a forestry logistics officer. I was able to do that based off what Jon was talking about, the career building, resume building, an ARC associate Kabir, man, helped in every aspect. I applied for all 3 of these jobs in last November in that timeline of stress, and you know, you get a month a year to apply, and I got all 3 of the positions I applied for. It wouldn't have happened without that, you know. I didn't know how to write a resume. No idea.
So I want to give a shout out to the entire ARC VTC staff for doing an amazing job. But I also want to shout out to partners that came together to make this a reality. So the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, the California Conservation Corps, and definitely CAL FIRE, an amazing organization that's saving property, saving lives, and literally putting their lives on the line. We want to give a shout out to those organizations that made VTC a reality. Without this combination and the governor to support making this happen, this would not be something that's a reality today. And so want to definitely shout these organizations out. And when we talk about systemic change, this is an example of it. This is, some people say, well, it's incremental. It's huge in the lives of individuals who have the opportunity to now make their dreams come through when you talk about a career as a firefighter. Stephen, you said you're on a fire right now that's burning 361,000 acres. What does it feel like to be working on something like I had a little grease fire a few weeks ago in my house, and that seemed like that was huge. And I see these huge fires that are burning thousands and thousands of acres. What is it like to be on the line fighting fires like that?
It's nerve-wracking, and it's awesome. Monday morning at 6 o'clock, we were watching lightning strikes, joking around. You know, oh, it's scary, right? Because the lightning was so close. And then at 6:24, the fire started. And that's when like your mind shifts. It's like a paradigm shift in your brain, you know? Yep, kind of like that. It's time to get to business at that point, you know? But you don't expect every fire to grow like this one has or Santa Clara's has. It just happens. You know, right wind environment, right topography, right heat, it's bad. So it's hard to explain to civilians that it's an honor and a privilege to fight these fires, you know, because they're so big and there's devastation. People are losing their lives. Hey, there's Mike Debris. All right.
So just so the audience, could you go back first? Could you go back? I just want to point something out to the audience. So again, another VTC alumni, if you look in his right hand, so he has a shovel in one hand, and in his right hand, he actually has a turtle that he saved. So we leave no one behind. So just wanted to point that out. And then to Steve's point on the next picture for our audience to see, here's an example of those lightning strikes.
Yeah.
Those lightning strikes that were igniting fires. That's a pretty awesome picture right there. Wow. Jon, wanted to ask you, you just got back 30 minutes ago. We were talking before we went live. You just got back 30 minutes ago from supporting our folks on the river fire. What is that like?
I mean, it's its own culture in itself. You know, we got there on 2 Mondays ago, and it was the beginning of the evacuation. And it's interesting because as people are evacuating the fire, the crews are actually the ones running to it. And, you know, dialogue with the captains and the cadets, the first 2 24-hour shifts that they were on, yeah, they do a 24-hour shift straight. They calculated, I think, over 40 miles of hiking, cutting line, and going up like 70-degree mountains. Some of it was done in the pitch dark of the night, and you know, to see the guys get pushed to their limits, and when they get to the place where they said they couldn't go anymore, they do another 6 hours on top of that. But I think what really motivates the guys is because they're together. You know, the togetherness of the crews that are built long before they're even on that mountain. The leadership of the captains, as Steve mentioned too, you know, everything that is instilled at the VTC, it's out there being laid down now, you know, and being there and finally seeing, you know, the containment of the fire and seeing the guys starting to see the evidence of the fruit of their labor and start seeing kids and and families come by with signs and, you know, thanking the guys and clapping for the guys. And to see that expression on the men's face, to know that, you know, they're out here now making a difference as men that are no longer in the orange, but now they're in the yellow. And it's just an ongoing conversation, you know, and then seeing the men that are still in the orange, you know, giving them hope and, you know, letting them know, like, look, man, keep going, keep striving. You know, you can make these steps in this direction as well, you know. So not just in the present, but turning around and you know, encouraging those that are still going through that process, you know, to you know, have those big goals set.
Okay, so I want to ask you one more question, Jon. Like, so what is your favorite part of being of service to VTC? What stands out about the participants there more than anything else?
Man, there's many, but I mean, just looking at and hearing Steve, you know, men like Steve who have come through and had a dream and now are fulfilling and living their dreams. And not just that, but I mean, all the other agencies. You know, we have 2 amazing parole agents that are there, that are you know, lay it down, the chiefs, the captains, the triple C's, the kitchen staff, our teacher, our on-site charter school teacher. We all become like a huge family, man. And you know, we've molded together and created you know, our own little world that, you know, promotes and shifts and encourages people to accomplish their dreams, you know. And to me, I think that has been the greatest part, is seeing everybody come together from different places and pull together and make something even stronger now than what it used to be before.
So I want to share this because I've had a couple of people ask about the barriers for people becoming a firefighter if they have a felony. If you're in prison, you've been in prison for a felony, you don't go to prison for misdemeanors. And so literally, just so it's clear to our audience, many of the people that come from the fire camps, if not all, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jon and Steve, are on parole when they get to VTC. That's why we have parole agents that are part of the camp. This is a collaborative with CDCR. So they're on parole being trained by Cal Fire. I want to take a moment to introduce Esteban Nunez, my brother, our policy director for ARC, the Anti-Recidivism Coalition. And Esteban is here to touch on something that a number of people have asked about in terms of barriers. So first of all, we're very, very, very proud of the VTC program, but we also want to remove barriers in the workforce to people that have been incarcerated. That's why we're supporting AB 2147. The Lakers just put out a tweet this morning. If you follow the Lakers, an amazing sports franchise that are also in support of it, and many others. And so Esteban is here to talk more about what is AB 2147 and what would it do in terms of for people, for instance, like Steve.
Yeah, no, you know, I'll start by saying I first became introduced to this issue going into Pine Grove. Actually, it was Antonio Wellington, a youth that I mentor at the time, who had just come home from Pine Grove. We couldn't get him an EMT license, and the dude is very intelligent, very gifted, very focused. And to me, it was just such a tragedy. Like, here is a group of individuals who literally have devoted themselves, their time, and their professional careers to giving back to the communities and protecting communities. You know, if that's not restorative justice, I don't know what is. So for me, I felt like this is just a true travesty to have a group of individuals who really are on the front lines protecting us, only to find out that when they come home, that society doesn't deem them worthy enough to become firefighters. And for me, it just didn't sit well. I think, you know, all of ARC felt like, how do we find a way change this, right? And so for years we were trying to do legislation that really just opened the doors for formerly incarcerated people to become EMT certified, and it was just a very straight and narrow kind of cookie cutter kind of legislation. Ran up against a lot of opposition continuously, ranging from state government boards to some unions, and really just did a lot of advocacy work, but really did a lot of try to shatter their perspectives of what formerly incarcerated people are. I mean, we took the president of the California Professional Firefighters Union into a facility. Actually, Sam Lewis was there and accompanied Mr. Brian Price. And, he came out of that really changed and had a very different mindset on rehabilitation. And therefore, and we had conversations and found that he could wrap his mind around providing some sort of expungement opportunities for people who had been in fire camps. And therefore, we came up with AB 2147, which does just that. So anybody who has successfully participated in a fire camp program, both on a state level and local level, has an opportunity, while still on supervision, mind you, to apply for an expungement. The process is very straightforward. What had happened is the person would apply in the county that they were convicted in. The judge would then contact CDCR to just confirm that they were in a fire camp, and then the judge would make the decision from there whether to expunge the person's record or not. So that at that point, the person could apply for an EMT and become EMT certified and apply to become a professional firefighter, just like everybody else. And we've had no real opposition against this. I think the unions, I would say, the opposition's just backpedaling really is attributed to the hard work of every person who's fighting those fires, every man and woman who's formerly incarcerated that's out there fighting fires. That's and that's doing it really just out of the kindness of their heart, because they're not getting paid very much money to do it. Even when they're here and home and working for forestry, they're not making nearly as much as a California professional firefighter is. So I think it just really speaks to the heart behind these individuals. And that's why we've been working tirelessly on 2147 and feel that it's about equal opportunity.
And so 2147, Assembly Bill 2147, want to give a huge shout out to Assemblymember Reyes for bringing that bill forward. Huge shout out. We love you. Thank you for this.
Whom, by the way, has worked on this for 3 years and has been relentless, has not given up. And is always trying to find a way and always pushes back on amendments. Like, she is a true champion of this. So, yeah.
So let me ask you this. Right now, what is the urgency now, and what can we do to make sure that this passes? You have an audience that's listening. What is the urgency, and what can we do? How do we empower our audience to make sure this passes?
The urgency, of course, as you're seeing, there's more than 14,600 firefighters right now out fighting fires. I think as of today, the fires grew to 730. We are, the bill 2147 is currently on the Senate floor. It could potentially be voted on today. Anywhere from today to tomorrow, it would get voted on in the Senate and then go back to the Assembly to get voted back on the Assembly floor for occurrence. But I think if we, because our advocacy abilities are just strained and limited right now, I think social media is just the best way that we can really just vocalize our support for this. And I would just suggest that we tweet and retweet ARC's posts or posts that have already identified a specific person or target. That way we can ensure that this gets across the finish line. And then after that, I think that the heavy lift is also just engaging the governor's office and making sure that, the governor is well aware of this bill and this legislation and how important it is to the community.
So if you don't follow ARC, please follow ARC on Twitter and retweet our support for AB 2147, or retweet the Lakers' support for 2147. Retweet and at your assembly persons or elected officials for the state and ask them to support. It's an active way. Our electeds do pay attention to their Twitters. So please retweet the support for AB 2147 for our firefighters that are formerly incarcerated to have an opportunity to be able to earn their EMT licenses or to be able to get expungements after they leave the fire camps that they're currently serving our communities in. Let me go back to Stephen. First of all, thank you, Esteban. And I would be remiss if I did not give a huge shout out to the other community-based organizations who have been working on this issue for years, especially our partners at Root and Rebound. And Esteban has been tirelessly working on this for the longest. Thank you, brother. We appreciate you. And we do consider you a superhero also, brother. I want to ask Stephen, why is the EMT certification important for a firefighter?
It's a good question. So currently, the feds, the U.S. Forest Service, and CAL FIRE, I believe, are the only two organizations that'll hire you with just PSFA, which is Public Safety First Aid. You can't get a job with a felony and no EMT at a municipal department. Say, LA City Fire, LA County Fire. They have fire camps, but they don't have EMT licensing. And they want municipal, you have to have an EMT or higher. So, I mean, to get to a medic, you have to be an EMT, right? And there's plenty of capable dudes that I went to VTC with. You showed a picture of one of them, fully capable of being a medic. Can't do it, 10 years from your release date, it's a sham, And it holds you back. You're limited in this of where you can apply. Yes, you can get a job. I'm living proof of that. I got 25 other dudes this year in the department. But at the same time, what if you want to try to expand your horizons? Take it to that next level. You can't get a job with the state, a city municipal. So it really kind of drops your chances a little bit,
So I want to thank you for that, Stephen. And Esteban, I think I thanked you, but I didn't get a chance to ask you if there were any last comments that you want to make. Would love for you to stay on if you have time. Any last comments you want to make in terms of 2147 or just the program in general and second chances and redemption?
The only thing I'll add to is just, although this bill is intended for people to be able to get their EMT license, it also isn't just limited to that. So if there's an interest in getting some sort of licensing from another board, state agency, that's also available to these individuals as well. And just really appreciate the work and the vigor behind ARC's advocacy and the work of VTC as well. It's made my job in the policy realm a lot easier in pushing 2147. So, it's really been all the hard work of you all. So, I'm just here just riding the wave. So I appreciate everybody.
Appreciate your humbleness, but we know better than that, Esteban. So thank you, brother. You can. We'd love for you to stay on because there's one other thing that I want to kind of touch on, and it's language when we talk about people that are in custody. So the language right now is inmate firefighters. I prefer, and I would hope that this would catch on to many, to say people that are in custody that are on fire crews, or that, instead of using the word inmate, how about we try saying people that are currently in custody instead of inmate fire crew. These are people that are in custody that are part of a fire crew. And I say that because the language that we're talking about, language matters. The stigma that we attach to that language, if we put that on someone, then that's something that both impacts them and how people view them. And so if we say people, because people are returning, take a look at Stephen. You would never know his backstory. He was a person that was in custody. Jon was a person that was in custody. Esteban and myself, we were all in custody at one time or another, but we are people. And look at what we've been able to bring back and give back to our communities. So just wanted to touch on that. And if anybody wants to talk or touch on that in terms of how we describe people that are in custody.
Well, Sam, my question is why? Why in custody? The oranges say it. Everyone knows who we are. We walk around different. We walk around in orange. I mean, they know who we are. Why not just hand crew?
Hand crew.
Why do they have to be in custody ever?
Okay.
They know it. It says it on the side of the bus. The windows are covered. We can't put our hands out of it. I say we because I was there. I don't forget that part of myself. One of my big things is I was constantly reminded of where I came from. Like, I know who I am. I know where I was at, and I know who I am now. You know, and that's a big thing for me. But like CDCR inmate, CDCR prisoner, over all the oranges. Never does it have to be said in custody, person who's in custody. No, they know. Just hand crew, fire crew, any of that. That's the verbiage.
Or just people that people. But what I would really like to eliminate is the use of inmate.
100%.
Yep.
And inmate, parolee, convict, all of those are negative terms, when in fact these are people that have made a different choice now to be the best version of themselves and should be supported. So want to ask Jon something else in terms of the support. So for you, what has been the most difficult part when it comes to supporting our firefighters when they go into on the fire line? As I understand it, most of the crews do a rotation where you're for 24 hours you're fighting on fire, and then you're down a day, you're up a day, you're down a day, depending on how much of a demand it is, and sometimes those days might be even longer. What is the most difficult part for you, Jon?
I think you know, finding our place out there. Just continually having the conversations with the guys that you're not no longer in the orange, and sometimes with being out there and some of the terminology that's used, it triggers those thoughts, and it triggers the mind to sometimes feel like, man, I'm being treated like I was when I was incarcerated, and that's not so. And so the challenge is to be able to reframe that, when I communicate with some of the guys, and let them know, man, you're only feeling that way if you're putting yourself in that situation, and this last couple weeks out there, I had situations where a few guys felt triggered that they were being treated like, formerly incarcerated. And as we continue to conversate and talk, they realize, no, you know what, I'm not. And that's the beautiful part about, being present at those places, as a life coach, is to be able to direct that conversation into something that they have that paradigm shift. Like, yeah, I'm here. This is life out here now, and I think that's been the biggest challenge that we've had on both sides,
So just want you to know that Rashid gave the life coaches a shout out. Specifically, the PTSD of incarceration is real, and life coaches are amazing. So that's a shout out to you, Jon, and the work that you do, and the rest of the VTC staff that are out there. Want to talk about, so one of our questions was, what are ways that we can make dreams a reality, or dreams for incarcerated people or formerly incarcerated people? And so my answer to that is, when we're right now in this time that we're in, and we hear systemic change. So we live in systems, and our systems are governed basically in this country by our Constitution. The Constitution of the United States is considered a living document. And from that Constitution, all of these states came, and now each state has its own Constitution. And that Constitution embodies the laws that govern the state through statutes. Those are the systems. When we talk about systemic change, VTC is an example of that. When we talk about systemic change, 2147 is an example of that. Assembly Bill 2147 is an example of that, because you're changing the system and how it functions to make it function the way that it should be. It should function to be able to actually be something that we can be proud of. So when we talk about systemic change and how do we make people's realities or their dreams a reality that are incarcerated, we first listen to people that are incarcerated, and then we figure out a way to bring it to the table. So literally, VTC was an idea that was brought to Governor Brown a few years back, And there were places at the table to discuss this. Was it possible? And then the willingness of the partners, CDCR, California Conservation Corps, and the biggest and most important piece, CAL FIRE. Are you willing to see if we can make this happen? And by being able to sit down and work together and figure out, you know what, this is something that's attainable. You have people like Steve, and right now there are 29 CAL firefighters now that have come to VTC. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jon.
Yes.
29 through our first 18-month program, and our hope is to be able to continue to do this. And so our hope is also, and our plan is to have the next phase where there will be women firefighters going through VTC. So just so our viewers know, we're not leaving anybody behind. We want our sisters on the fire line too. If this is the dream for them to be a CAL firefighter. So wanted to say that too. And matter of fact, there's actually a question. I'm gonna come right back to you, Steve, but this one's directed to Jon. Is there a firefighter training course for women who are or have been incarcerated? And I kind of think I might have jumped ahead, but go ahead, Jon.
As of right now, I at the VTC, it's currently no, it's all a male academy. So as of other places right now, I know there's a few other agencies that are stepping up, but FFRP actually is one who is now connected to be able to assist formerly incarcerated women to be able to, get connected and God willing become CAL FIRE or forestry or wherever they desire to go.
And Steve, what were you going to say just a moment ago?
I just didn't want to leave out the two guys that, because of VTC, are also part of that. There's two gentlemen that work their butts off to get to where they are too. They're not really in the VTC count, but they're a huge part of VTC. Chris was my life coach, solid dude, went out on his own and did his thing, and so did Kabir, which is our business guy. He's our resume builder. He was our everything. So I just didn't want to leave those two out, man. They deserve their props too.
Absolutely. Huge shout out to Chris and Kabir. Kabir was our job developer. Chris was one of our life coaches. And our hope is that soon they will also be CAL firefighters.
They both are currently CAL firefighters.
I did not realize. So both Chris and Kabir. So Chris, I know better than most. Chris and I actually were on the yard together many years ago, on a prison yard together. And that's when I first met Chris. He came home. Initially, he was part of the Hope and Redemption team, going back inside to provide rehabilitative programming to people that are inside maximum security prisons. And then he decided that he'd like to try being a life coach for VTC, and the fire engines called him. And since then, he's been on a mission and is now a CAL wildland firefighter. I want to give a shout out to you, Chris, if you're watching this. Matter of fact, no, Chris is not watching this because he's on the fire line. That's why he's not on our show, because I actually reached out to Chris, and Chris said, well, I can't make it because I'll be fighting a fire while you're sitting at home. Want to share one last thing before we go to closing comments. When I talked to Chris, I asked him, what did it feel like? And he said they were coming back off the fire line, and he's sitting on the rig, the fire truck, and he sees all these signs that are hung up. Thank you for saving our homes. Thank you, you're heroes. And Chris, for a minute, he looked at these, and he's like, you're dirty, you're smoky, you got your uniform on. He's like, that's not for me. And then he said he caught himself, and he was like, that is for me. There's Chris right there with the blue hat on. That's Chris, one of our brothers. And he said he had to choke back a tear and wanting to cry because the feeling of just being a part of something that was so great just hit him, that those signs were also meant for him as he's on that fire line, fighting hard to save people's lives and to save property. So Chris, shout out to you. I'm pretty sure people will tell you that I mentioned your name multiple times, brother. Proud to see you and the work that you're doing. Jon, closing thoughts for our audience. Anything you want to share before you go off?
Yeah, talking with our program coordinator, Michelle Garcia, a while back, she coined the term VTC as the Ventura Transformation Center. And that's the best way to describe VTC in my eyes. And not just that the men are transforming right there and developing into, firefighters with CAL FIRE, but, everybody that believes in that dream. And all you guys, you, Sam, Esteban, everybody that's advocating and supporting to making this a reality even more, with these bills being passed. So with that said, the Transformation Center, it exists, and it's going to grow even bigger in the near future.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Jon. Steve, last thoughts for our audience?
Yeah, I don't know that it was encapsulated enough by me, maybe, but when I got to VTC, my whole life changed. Jon didn't touch on it. I thought he was going to, but the day before, it's crazy how this program worked, man. VTC is everything. Like, it taught me how to make my bed at 31 years old. I'm not lying. Every day, wake up, make your bed, show up somewhere. I never thought that I'd be happy to say hello to a parole officer, but we had two of them that were just badasses. Michelle Garcia talked me off the ledge like 37,000 times. Without the help and guidance of all the people at VTC, it wasn't about firefighting training. We did get that. Rest assured, we got that. Sam, you said you saw it yourself. Days and days of training, but it was way, way more than that to me. It helped me grow. I just got off parole 2 days ago. The same day that Nick called me, I was like, man, this is crazy. And then I started thinking about it, and I was driving to my apartment from my job as a free man, and I owe it all to VTC. Yeah, I put in work, I did that, but without them, I wouldn't have walked that walk. I wouldn't have done that path, Every day I thank them. Good stuff. Thank you.
Hey, brother, we thankful for you, man. This first 29 are paving the way for others to come home to be able to do this. Thank you, brother. Thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for protecting our communities from fires, man. We appreciate you and are super proud of you. I want to thank you, Jon, for joining. Thank you, Steve, for joining. Esteban, thank you for joining. And our guests, thank you, everyone, for joining. And I'd like to close with just saying this. When we talk about changing the system, it takes time, effort, and commitment. And so systemic change, to me, requires policy change first. The laws that govern us are the laws that have to be changed. And we have to have a vision of what we want it to look like. To have a vision and no action behind it is to daydream. And so when we're in this time when many are saying we need systemic change, I just want to put it out there that ARC has been doing systemic change for 7 years. We've worked hard to change 17 pieces of legislation that have made our criminal justice system better. We have 2 more right now that are directed or for juveniles. And we continue to work oftentimes behind the scenes, just trying to make sure that our systems becomes better so that people like Steve and so many others and myself and Jon and all of the people that are currently incarcerated and that are formerly incarcerated have second chances. And in many instances have a real first chance. If you want to know more about ARC, please take a look at us online. Or if you want to contact us, reach out to us at arcinfo.com. Thank you all for joining. And we look forward to continuing to make our world, our community, our state a better place. Peace, take care, and God bless.